When lockdown brought the country to a near standstill, the government stepped up to keep childcare going. But there was always a ticking clock.
Free childcare will end on 12 July.
Adelaide mum Emily is currently propped up by JobKeeper. For her, the package was a lifesaver.
All the money I earn actually goes towards our children. It means that the hours I work are hours for me, not hours just paying for the childcare. I felt that hours that I've worked have been valued, that I haven't been working for no reason.
From tomorrow, the subsidy for childcare centres will be gone and fees for parents will return to pre-COVID levels, with the old childcare assistance back in play. That covers up to 85%, depending on things like household income and the cost of the care. But with the pandemic far from over, not all parents are in a position to get their kids back into care.
So we would expect that because families have lost income during this crisis, that there would be a drop in enrolments, and that could impact the ability of centres to stay open in the coming months.
While that's bad news for many childcare centres, some will welcome the return to norm. Not every provider has been eligible for the subsidy, and some centres have seen their revenue halved.
There's such a mixed response in the sector because the free childcare arrangements really have hit different centres in very different ways. And so if you're working at full capacity with less income, it's been really tough on you and you might really want to see a return to the previous system.
The federal government's extended support for lockdown Victorians. Parents will have the gap fee waived if their kid can't attend, and childcare centres can claim subsidies for kids who aren't there. The state government's also pitching in.
We're providing full support, free kinder through the course of term 3, so that is around $460 per child.
But with the rest of the country nowhere near out of the woods, should everyone get an extension?
Well, earlier today we spoke with the Federal Education Minister, Dan Tehan. Minister, what are the chances that your government's going to give a bit more assistance to parents and also the childcare centres over the coming months?
So we're working with the childcare sector to make sure that we're providing the assistance that they need and that parents are getting the assistance they need to get themselves through this pandemic. And if you look at the rest of the world, what we've been able to achieve here in Australia is quite extraordinary. 99% of our childcare providers have remained open right throughout the pandemic, providing that care that we need for our young children. And I must say, on behalf of the Australian government, I say to the childcare sector and to all those early childhood educators, thank you very much for what you've done through the pandemic to provide that care and that education to our young children.
It's clear that doing that's enabled a lot of people to continue working, and your government now says that the number one priority for this country is to get people back into work. Do you acknowledge that actually this whole childcare issue has a huge impact on whether or not people can get back to work?
Well, one of the things that we were hearing from the sector and from parents was that they weren't able to get that access to childcare as demand grew to 74%. And we needed to make sure that all providers right across the nation could provide that increase in care that was needed as demand came back into the system. So that's why we've put this transitional arrangement in place where we're continuing to provide additional support for the sector and also putting in place support for parents and families as well.
Dan, you've always told us that schools and childcare centres are safe. The government has continued to say that throughout this. But the outbreak at Altaqua College in Melbourne would suggest otherwise. So are schools actually safe?
They are safe, and that's what the medical expert panel has told us right throughout this pandemic, and we continue to listen to them and to their advice. Obviously, we need to put the proper protocols in place, especially when it comes to teachers, and the medical experts continue to work on that to make sure that we're doing everything we can, in particular, to keep our teachers safe. But we have said all along and been very consistent that we would take the advice of the medical experts, and they've said that it is safe for our childcare centres to operate and for our schools to be open.
Minister Tehan, thanks so much for your time tonight.